Fisher and Monte Cameron.
Thank you, Kathy. So, and I wanted to thank Kathy Sweet for your presentation. That was what a perfect demonstration of the way it works. It just fits right in with what we're talking about today. And it's actually my favorite chapter, because when you know how it works, then you can demonstrate almost anything you want, and not almost anything you want. And the Science of Mind textbook at the beginning of the chapter says, as much good as any individual is able to incorporate in his life is his to use. And I will add to that, and Ernest Holmes also adds many places through the textbook, that up to the level of your understanding of how it works and your level of your believability. So I wanted to start by taking a look at all that is ours. Okay, we know there's only one mind, there's one thought, and there is only one universal power, and that power and that intelligence is everywhere. And within that universal intelligence is the possibility of anything and everything that you can ever desire being manifested in your life. And you have access to that. It is yours. There are many places in the Bible where it says it is already given to you. So it's already yours. It's already yours to just grab. So you might say, why am I not receiving it? Well, the only reason you don't have it, seeing it in your life, is you haven't received it. But if just to help increase our believability about that, look at all that you have received in your life. So every job that you've had, every paycheck that you have gotten, every unexpected thing that's come your way, every smile from a person. And I guarantee you that that smile did not come your way without something in here saying, I love humanity and I am connected to people. So it's so if you sit and think about the goodness that you have received all in your lifetime, it's apparent how abundant you really are. And it's apparent that you know how to do this. So I'd like to break it down a little bit, actually, how that happens for you. And we talk about our thoughts are things and our thoughts are reality. But where do our thoughts come from? Our thoughts come from first cause. So they come from our beingness. So they come from our beliefs about who we are in the world. And for instance, if we are being happy, then we have, when we are being happy, we have happy thoughts, and then which brings happy actions, and which brings happy experiences in our life. So happy begets happy. So I'd like to do a little exercise with you guys this morning. So if you can close your eyes or keep them open, either one for this exercise. But I want you to sit and think happy thoughts. So think of something that you feel happy about. A child playing, a puppy, or a kitten. Anything that you relate to happiness. Now I want you to make a shift. And instead of thinking happy thoughts, I want you to make a decision to be happy. No particular thoughts about happiness. Just make a decision to be happy. Okay, do you see the difference? It's just a slight difference, and it's only a slight difference at this subject, because I would guess that most people in this room are vibrating at happy much of the time. So why don't we do the same exercise and now think of wealth flowing into your life, whatever that means for you. Just what are your thoughts about wealth? And now make a shift to be wealthy, whatever that means for you. Now notice where your level of being wealthy is, and without judgment, and just notice. Now, whatever level of being wealthy is for you, increase that by 10 million. Are you able to sustain the believability that you are a multimillionaire? Okay, let's go back to the knowingness that we talked about a little bit a few minutes ago. The fact that this is already given to you. It's already there for you to receive. The only reason that it's not sitting in your bank account is that you don't have the believability that it is yours, and you haven't chosen to receive it yet. But now you know the way to receive it is actually being it and believing that you are it. And it's easy for you to believe that you are wealthy because, number one, it has already been given to you, and number two, you have abundance in your life your whole life and know how to do it and are good at it. So there's a whole bunch of science and physics around the way it works and how it works, and it's kind of fascinating to get into all of that, but you don't have to know all of that science around it in order for it to work. All you need to do is know that anything that is yours as long as you believe that it's yours, and then it's received into your life. So play with it at home. It's wealth might not be what floats your boat, but anything that you choose, and as you play with it, it's a skill that just believing in your beingness and your worthiness, and it's a skill that you can build up. So we'll stop right there for right now, and I'll invite our next speaker coming up. So Julie, if you'd like to come on up and do the second part. So thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. The way it works. There may or may not be a slide that comes up, and you can look at that and read it as I speak. It is the one force, the one source, the first cause, universal spirit, the one mind behind, in, and as everything and every effect that we see. Holmes uses more than 20, I think 30, names for it, this power, in the first couple chapters of Science of Mind. I've kept this quote from Goethe for over 35 years. The first time I saw that, I hadn't been in New Thought. I had no concept of New Thought or Science of Mind. But this quote, this paragraph, moved me so much. I knew it was the truth. I knew there was truth in it, and I knew that that's how the world worked. So in this quote, if you read it, you can substitute words like the divine source, or the infinite creative intelligence, the force, my favorite, the one mind or God for the word providence. That's what moves your thought. So it, which created order from chaos, it floats the cosmos, it's the systems that are incredible and unrepeatable by mankind, is also this power, this it is endowed in us. We are endowed with that power because we're created from it. We are it. We're a microcosm of the macrocosm that is God, it, the one source. The way it works is through us, because, as I said, we're it. It runs through us, we breathe it, we live in this power, this one source, this thing called it. And we are in relationship with it to express and create. Jesus of Nazareth said, "As I do, so can you." And that was not metaphoric. The source and the force is ours. Our thoughts, our words, our passionate visions with power behind them create circumstances and things. That is spiritual truth. The source and the force is ours to use. Nothing Ernest Holmes wrote in Science of Mind is new, and it's not new thought. It's thought of the ages, the highest and the best. And his text is a compilation of the great minds, and he said that himself. Thomas Troward says, "Consciousness precedes form and experience. Ideas take flight into things from the nucleus of our conviction." And that quote is in Science of Mind this month on page 68, talks about the roots of Science of Mind. He also said, "My mind is a center of divine operations. All that hinders the individual from exercising the full power of the infinite for any purpose whatsoever is his lack of faith, his inability to realize the full, stupendous truth that he himself is the very power that he seeks." Ralph Waldo Trine wrote in 1897 in this great book called In Tune with the Infinite, "The great central fact of the universe is that the spirit of infinite life and power that is behind all, animates all, that manifests itself in and through all, that self-existent principle of life from which all has come, that spirit is that. There is this spirit of infinite life and power behind all, which is the source of all. Everything exists in the unseen before it is manifested or realized in the seen. The power of the word is a literal scientific fact. Through the operation of our thought forces, we have creative power. This is Trine. But there is one source of power in the universe. Know that to catch and hold it, in other words, to know it and realize it, is the secret to the power, to use it in conjunction with the infinite power in order that it may continually work and manifest through you. When you come into the realization of your oneness with the infinite life and power, and you open yourself to it, that it may work through you, you'll find that you've entered upon an entirely new phase of life and that an ever-increasing power is yours. Opulence is the law of the universe, he says, an abundant supply for every need if nothing is put in the way of its coming. No barriers. Thought is the force with which we build, for thoughts are forces. This is the way it works through us, through spiritual mind treatment, through affirmative prayer. Emmett Fox said, "Pray definitely for yourself every day, or you'll get nowhere." You are always treating, you are constantly treating your conditions with the thoughts you hold concerning them. What you really think about anything is your treatment of that thing. This is the reason visible conditions are always the expression of invisible thought. So I think of New Thought, I think of our movement as, it's been called positive thinking. It could be called positive speaking. And I know it myself as creative affirmative prayer. Awareness and knowing and accepting and being open to receiving is the basis for the way it works. Jesus also said, "It is done unto you as you believe." Holmes sometimes shouts in Science of Mind. If you've read any of his texts, he will shout something out by putting it all in uppercase, like that. So he said, "And it is only common sense to recognize that what this law does for you, it must do through you. This thing works for us by working through us and is us, always but it can become power to us only when we recognize its power. One must have a deep conviction that the word is operated on by a spiritual law, because law is the doer. God, the force, the one mind, the one source, is both creator and the action. You must know that a power, it, acts on your words. You take the power from the law. You don't put the power into it. The power is it, and you're using it. The plant is seeded in the soil. The seed is planted in the soil, and it unfolds into its nature. The seed is the thought in the soil, and God is action. God as God, the force is the action. The practice of spiritual mind treatment is not mental coercion or suggestion. It's a mental awareness, spiritual practice and awareness of the mind to see the result already accomplished and to believe that it's already done. Holmes said, the barriers between you and your greater good are not barriers in themselves. They are things of thought. Awareness is the law, that's step one, and using the law and use and belief of that is your next step. The spirit is always willing and the law is always ready. It merely needs to be recognized and used. Science of Mind says the law always says yes, responding to the volition, which is the power of willing, choosing, or resolving of your word and your thoughts. There's a power in your word and in your thought. Call it passion or call it power. You must know it, be convinced of it, be convinced of your words, and picture it. It's done to the extent of your belief. Finally, Holmes said, you should feel that all the power in the universe is back of your words and flowing through them. There should be a sense of joy as well as conviction and mental expectancy backed by a deep intellectual conviction and an even deeper spiritual awareness. So feel free to repeat after me. It is all there is.
It is all there is.
I am one with it.
I am one with it.
And all that it has is mine.
And all that it has is mine.
I am grateful, and so it is.
I am grateful, and so it is.
Namaste.
Good morning. Good morning. Look at all of you out there. Thanks for coming. And I wanted to thank you for always being such friendly faces. You know, usually I ask you to close your eyes pretty quickly. So this is going to be a new experience for me. So I also wanted to recognize that it was Dr. Ernest Holmes' birthday yesterday. So I think that's pretty special that we're up here talking in January about all of this. And I also wanted to say that I've stuck to this book. I mean, look at this book. And the chapter we were in has 5 pages. So I realized that my challenge was to stay in my lane. Because it's so exciting sometimes to talk about other parts and, you know, this and that. And so I know that you'll learn what it does and how to use it over the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to do my best to stay with the way it works. So let's see. I want to start, though, kind of reminding us what John and Rod, and Amy shared with us about the thing itself. So I'm reading, whenever I read from these, this is directly from Ernest Holmes. So know that I'm up here co-creating with Spirit and Ernest Holmes. The mind which we discover within us is the mind that governs everything. This is the thing itself, and we should recognize its simplicity. So I've also challenged myself to try to keep it simple. And as I was preparing, I also noticed another suggestion from Ernest Holmes, Dr. Holmes, was a way to approach science of mind. So I wanted to read a couple of that to you too. Let us approach the science of mind with awe, but not with fear, with truly a humble thought, but not with a sense that we are unworthy. So I loved that you brought that up. Let us approach it normally, happily, willing to accept, glad to experiment, hoping and believing that as a result of our efforts, we shall each derive a great good. And he also says, to learn how to think is to learn how to live. And this is not done by holding thoughts, but by knowing the truth. So I believe that we all show up here at the center to continue our journey of seeking the truth. And so I'm going to hope to review the way it works to continue to help us strengthen our understanding and knowing the truth of life, of God, of reality. And so as I reflected on the phrase, the way it works, I was thinking about the way. You know, that could be a process or a path. So I'm going old school, no PowerPoint or whatever. This is another thing that Ernest Holmes has given us to help us with the teaching, is the science of mind teaching symbol. So I was reflecting on the phrase, and I really felt as if this is the way it works, and the path. And I heard steps, and I heard journey, and I heard path this morning already in other people's words. So that was affirming for me. And again, kind of reviewing, this is the thing itself. Spirit, God, universal mind, consciousness, subconsciousness, the law, form, material world, the thing itself. So this way, this path is the same process that God created the stars and the planets, earth, animals, plants, and humankind. God, Spirit, created us in its image. So we have the same path or process to create. We are co-creators with Spirit, and this is the way it works. This universal life and energy finds an outlet in and through all that is energized and through everything that lives. Spirit makes things out of itself through some inner act upon itself. So we know that we are made in the image of God, and we are children of God. And we know that this is what we are, because we could not be anything else. But we do not know how much of this we are. Jesus, as the Son of God, summed up his whole philosophy in reading in this simple statement, "It is done unto you as you believe." So to try to sum up the way it works, I pulled these 3 statements out of the Science of Mind textbook. The thing, Spirit, works for us by working through us. It obeys us as we first obey it. Our obedience to it is our acceptance to it. So if you think about this principle, it is done unto you as you believe, what is the benefit of knowing that? Well, I propose that when we come to believe, it is in direct relation to how we behave. And so if we act upon our beliefs, then we obey according to that belief. And what do we obey? Well, we drive on the right side of the street, we stop at red lights, we pull over for emergency vehicles, because we believe this is the way it works. So again, if we believe this is the way it works, if we obey the way it works, then it is done unto us as we believe. Then we have the power of creation. So that is why it is done unto you as you believe. Oh, I skipped some, I think. Let's see. We have the power of creation. I did. I skipped a whole thing. It is done unto you as you believe. So I'm going to keep saying that because I think that is important. If we say that we can only experience a little good, then we shall indeed experience but a little good. The thing then works for us by working through us and is us, always. But it can become only to us, again with the shouting earnest, only when we recognize its power. So we've talked about learning how to think, learning how to live, that spirit makes things out of itself with some inner act, a self-knowing, contemplation, or conscious thought, and our thoughts created our beliefs, which is our subconscious, and our beliefs are what the law executes within. So that is why it is done unto you as you believe, in as much as, or as little as, you believe. The sum total of all our thought, will, purpose, and creates a tendency in this law that creates it to react to us according to the sum total of that belief. And as we know, spirit is infinite possibilities, limitless. As much of our word, the word that passes into law, is acted upon as we believe. Universal law is limitless, and it is available to use according to our beliefs. And in this book, our book of the first couple of months, chapter 3, it says, when Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe," he not only announced the law of faith, he explained the way it works. So the law of faith, your belief. And as John said last week, there's a lot of good tips in here to expand your faith or build your faith or strengthen it. And so your understanding of the way it works. One last point I'd like to make about the way it works is that it is only good. No good and evil. We only experience good and evil because we perceive a presence of duality and not of unity. But as I look at this symbol, I only see good. I see infinite potentials. I see power. I see a definiteness. I see God in action. I see the way it works. And as I can clearly see it, I am receptive to it. I believe it. It's all God. It's all good. It's all one. And it's love and law. And in closing, I would like to read this last statement for Dr. Ernest Holmes. Then, knowing that the thing can work for us only through us, let us begin to accept today more good than we experienced yesterday, and to know that we shall reap a harvest of fulfilled desires. Thank you.